This is Duke University.
It's the only public secondary school in the area, Rob Secondary School. So we have developed this as a case study. When we started working, the community asked us, and I can tell you later the history of how we ended up here. I'm trying to leave that for the Q&A so we can leave time for you. The school's been open for 20 years. In 20 years, not a single girl has ever passed her KCSE, has ever passed their end of grade exams. And it's not a great school. The boys don't do great, but every year, 20, 30, 40 boys pass their exams. No girl ever has. Again, because of the AIDS rate, 20% of the students are orphans, about 10% are HIV positive. That's probably much higher in the girls than the boys. It's very typical for teenage girls to have high infection rates. Because you get questions, well, you have significant amount of sexual abuse by teachers, very easily to chronicle, and everyone was very open. Every single teacher was sexually involved with a student at this school. And we were trying to chronicle specifically how that was impacting the girls. We would have a 14-year-old girl come up and say, should I stop having sex with the man who's paying my school fees? I'm an orphan. I really want to go to school. It's my way out of poverty. The only way I can do it is having a sugar daddy. It's the only way I can get books. They're doing cost-benefit analysis, risk of AIDS, risk getting out of poverty. And there's not a good answer here that you try and do. While there, we chronicled many attempts to force girls into marriages, often to their own teachers. And so, and this was a comment, a driver. I'm talking to these people, and so when I finally get out of the community, I'll say to someone else, like, Eddie, I hear this all the time. Is this like a narrow view, or is this more holistic? And he says, oh no, when things go bad, the first crop you harvest are the girls. You don't sell your cows. Cows are valuable. But you have a daughter, you can get a good bride price. That's the first thing you do. And so girls are really not valued very much, it's an understatement, are not valued within this community. At the same time, the community, before we even arrived, had done a self-study and identified girls' education as a problem in their area, and we're trying to come up with strategies to solve that. And Kenya as a country had identified girls' education as a problem and have sort of generic mandates that at least 30% of parliament be women. And the question is, where are those women going to come from when they're not educating their girls? That's why I asked you how many women executives come for the International Executive Program from developing countries. So the community basically came to us and said, can you help us figure out what, it doesn't take a rocket science to say stop having the teachers having sex with their students. But we decided to do a very thorough ethnographic case study of what are the specifics that are causing the gender differences in outcomes at this school. This involved some of the students in the room here. We interviewed almost all the 260 students at the school, many of the teachers, parents, local leaders. We had 20 hours of materials of scratchy, heavily accented interviews that had to be then transcribed to be read. And then those interviews, I'm talking about a year and a half of work right here, your interviews were all independently read and coded by 3 individual coders for identifying challenges to girls. So there was at least an hour to hour-long interview with small groups of girls. We also did the boys and the teachers. And asking them a multitude of questions, like, how many educated women do you know? Have you ever repeated a year at school? And then there was, what are the challenges? What do you think's making your life harder, your education harder? The data was then normalized for all the different coders and averaged across the coders we did, which I'm not going to show you. But 14 major challenges came up either when prompted, what is your challenge, or spontaneously in the conversation. Let me just give you some of the quotes so you can hear what the girls said. First of all, I had a brother who was in the same class as me. Now there was no fee. I had to wait for him to proceed. I also have a brother who was in class 6 behind me. So I had to wait for those persons to proceed. This was a girl that was getting put in and out of class. Every time a brother became eligible, she was pulled out for her brother to go in. Here's a girl saying, sometimes the lamp cannot work. There's no electricity, there's no sewage, there's no water in this area. This is an oil lamp. Now, if we cannot light the lamp, we just sit there. we had also identified that boys got 4 lamps, girls got 1 lamp. We'll come up with that later. The girl says, yeah, but maybe we can try another thing. If you become friends with a teacher, you can do so many things. And they realized that they were basically had to trade favors for teachers in order to get lights, to get paper. This came out in multiple interviews. And then the girls started critiquing themselves. Girls, you would say, why haven't girls succeed here? They said, well, girls aren't serious. They know they'll find a husband, a man to take care of them. A boy will struggle to read so that he can care for his wife. These are all from independent conversations with different age girls in that sophomore to senior range, basically. One girl said, because most of the time you get teachers advising boys, but they're not advising girls. Now we feel undermined. And well, that's why we're always in the dormitories rather than going to class. And then all the girls started laughing at the fact that they had sort of given up going to class. Here was a conversation. I interjected one thing. Girl said, the only thing girls do should just be encouraged. And we try very hard not to do any kind of leading. I just said, who? Who should be encouraging you? And then each of these is a different girl in the conversation. The teachers, if they just encourage us, we might change. No, they're not encouraging us. No, they just major on boys. They have in their mind that girls cannot make it. Yeah, but they think that boys can make it. Basically saying that, you know, the teachers aren't encouraging us at all. And this one, we kept getting this phrase a lot, that girls are weak, that girls were blaming themselves. Girls are weak academically. Boys are better than them, so they are being given top priority. So we had 20 hours of these conversations, and some of it was not related to this. When we coded them all, 14, I'm going to show you the top 5. Oh, sorry, this is just the data that everything was read independently. We normalized it, we averaged it, we got the standard deviation. I'm just going to summarize and show you. This is why girls say they're not succeeding. Top challenge, teachers. Teachers are negative. There's no female teachers at this school. Something I'll bring up later, if the girls are menstruating, they get locked out of the classroom. They go to the restroom once, they can't come back in. There's no sanitary pads. But a huge problem with teachers. Now these are girls whose parents are paying for them to go to school. They are the top in that area, in that they are in school and staying there.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.